Back once again with the latest edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast with you as always, the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli. My name is Soren Petro. It is Royals baseball as they win today. We broadcast stream live here on a Sunday night at 9 o'clock. If you're catching us via the podcast, remember you can be a part of the conversation Sunday nights at 9 with Rany and I. And we've got a lot to cover here in this edition of the Kaufman Corner as Kris Bubic has spun another gem, maybe even better than what the numbers say. We'll talk about that. What's the ceiling for one Kris Bubic? We'll get some thoughts on our preseason predictions. What we get right, what we get wrong, at least so far, very early in the year. But some things look like, yes, it's as expected. What surprised us? We'll get into that. What to worry about? We'll talk about that. Is it too late to find an outfielder? That's something that seems like it's going to be important along the way. How worried should we be about Rany and I's prediction of 88 wins? They won today, but just 4-5 on the years. And are we going to change the name of the minor league minute? Does it have to become, I don't know, like, what did I call it? What's up with Jack? I kind of like
Jacked
that.
Up, yeah, Tag's Corner.
Jack's
Jiffy. Yeah.
That was one of the ones you had. I like all of those. We're talking about it right now here on the Kaufman Corner, here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. Off and running here on the Sunday edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast. And Rany, let's start with the good of it. The Royals did win. That's the positive. And one Kris Bubic looks like the real deal, right? He is off to another fine start. Now it was his third start in 2023 that then would end up putting him on the shelf. It would be the last start of the year. So we had two very good ones 2 years ago. Then he ended up getting hurt, needing the Tommy John surgery. Did very well in the role of a reliever last year. Now he's back in the starting rotation, and he looks dominant yet again. How excited should we be getting, right? It's a team effort. 4-5 is 4-5, but it puts them just one game out of first place. But, I think there's got to be quite a bit of excitement when you see a kid looking like this, when he's kind of teased you before, and now he's backing it up two years later with the same kind of performance.
Yeah, it's hard not to be excited about what we are seeing from Kris Bubic, because what we are seeing is the fully actualized version of a guy who, was a supplemental first round pick, kind of a polished lefty coming out of college, but maybe a little bit short on stuff. And it took 5 years after he was drafted, but a new pitching administration came in, cleaned him up, found a little extra velocity, taught him a new pitch, and then he got hurt. And we had to sit here for...
Did you use the term fully actualized?
Fully actualized.
Is the term you're looking for the fully armed and operational?
No, because that's the Death Star. Things turned out bad at the end for the Death Star. So I'm trying a new.
It's pretty impressive piece of hardware there for you, Rany.
It was, but it did have a flaw. It had a fatal flaw. I'm hoping Kris Bubic doesn't have a fatal flaw. Okay. Because fully actualized, I mean, in the sense that he really doesn't have much of a weakness at this point. Like he is the, he's not the best pitcher in baseball, but he is what we are seeing from him right now is like the best version of Kris Bubic that he can be. He throws harder than he did when he came up. His velocity so far this year, again, very small sample size, but fastball velocity, you don't need a lot of sample to have an accurate reading of how hard he throws. I think he's around 92.5 this year. Last year he was at 93, and that was out of the bullpen. So he's only lost a half mile of velocity, half mile an hour, despite changing roles. And that sometimes you can easily lose 2 miles an hour moving from the bullpen to the rotation. So the velocity has held up. It's harder than he even threw in 2023. The results are fantastic. We'll get into that. But what I find interesting is, when he came out in 2023 looking so good for 2 starts before he got hurt, one of the big difference was he was throwing a slider. He was throwing a new pitch, right? This is 4 months before Brian Sweeney got his hands on Cole Reagan's and taught him a slider, or the organization as a whole taught him a slider. Our first glimpse of what the new Royals could do was with Kris Bubic and that slider. Last year, he came back and he wasn't really throwing a slider. He was throwing more of a sweeper out of the bullpen, right? And he essentially he's got a 3-pitch mix. He didn't need 4 pitches coming out of the bullpen. But this year, it's again a small sample size, but enough of a sample to know he's throwing both a sweeper and a slider to go with his 4-seam fastball and his change. He throws occasionally a sinker about 3% of the time. So he's officially a 5-pitch pitcher. And so the repertoire has been perfected. The velocity is there. He's always been a smart, savvy guy with good command. And the results have been fantastic. I mean, he threw, a really, really impressive first outing in Milwaukee, 6 shutout innings. Today, he should have thrown 7 shutout innings if Hunter Renfroe, if Hunter Renfroe's defense wasn't as bad as his offense and misplayed what should have been an easy fly ball into a triple leading off the top of the 7th. And even then, Bubich came back and struck out the next 2 batters, but there was a wild pitch in there to allow the Orioles to score the 1 run. But I mean, he's been. I can't struggle to find a weakness in what he's doing right now. Like your bold and daring prediction that he'd be one of the top 2 starters in the Royals this year. It's April the 6th, and it doesn't even look bold and daring anymore, which is the best kind of bold and daring prediction. You've kind of got that one nailed about 10 days into the season. And I was certainly very optimistic about him, but I wanted to see it. We need to see it. And that's why, even though the Royals are 4-5, you'd love for them to be 5-4 right now. But Kris Bubic's development alone is reason to be happy with the way the season has gone.
Yeah, for sure. And, I think he's a great example of a guy that, knows how to pitch, right? Like, I mean, the way I described it Thursday was, he's pitching at a 33-year-old level, right? When you see guys that come up, even the Justin Verlanders and the Max Scherzers and the Pedro Martinez, Roger Clemens, all those guys, they graduate away from their velocity, and it's their location and their break, right? Their ability to change speeds, the art of actual pitching. And he seems to have gone right to that. Now it's more necessity than it is erosion, but it still is. It's great to watch. And, the ability to tinker with the pitch makes you think that he's always going to be tweaking things. He's always going to be trying to stay ahead of the game, but it's absolutely vital. So that's a positive on his part, but for this team overall, they've got to be able to make every pitcher they get better. And what I like about it is it's, again, we mention the Rays all the time, but they would acquire guys, make them better. They would draft guys, make them better. Sign guys, make them better. And we're seeing that continue with Kris Bubic. And you mentioned the repertoire that he's got. I think he's just a smart guy that enjoys pitching, enjoys being able to fool guys. He's got enough raw talent. He throws hard, just not hard on a major league level, right? But he's got raw talent, and then just I think a curious mind, always looking for a way to get better. And I don't see where it stops. Right. I think he is the perfect, the usage of him in the bullpen last year just further, gave him, cemented the confidence that he needed, that he can go out and beat guys. And now he's taking it the long way. And I'm at least surprised on the degree to which he's carrying the strikeouts forward. Right. I thought that would tailor off, and it may still tailor off when he gets a little bit further into the year, but it might not. I mean, I'll ask you this: what's his ceiling? Like what is the ceiling for a guy of his ability? You know, with his raw stuff, like on the Enoceros, what is it, stuff meter, or what's it? Isn't that what he uses? He calls it. I don't know that he's going to test that high. Right. His pitch ability is going to test off the charts. What's the ceiling for a guy like that?
It's a really good question. I mean, you say he's a really smart guy, drafted out of Stanford. I'm always going to be biased towards the elite, university guys. The academic elitist in me, I'm always going to be biased in favor of Stanford and Vanderbilt guys. But I think it matters for pitchers. For hitters, probably not so much. But a pitcher has to have a plan out there and has to understand and have conviction in that plan. And so we know he's got the pitchability side. The other thing, though, I don't know of a good way to measure this. In fact, this is one of the few things I don't feel like we have a stuff measure, like you said, there's stuff measure. We're developing all sorts of interesting metrics. This year they unveiled data about batters' stances in the batter's box that they just released last week. And so, like, for instance, MJ Melendez, you can see graphically that his feet are setting up in a different spot in the batter's box than before. Obviously, we know that he adjusted his stance. But the thing I don't know of a good measure for, and if I'm missing it, please, somebody in the comments let me know, is that some pitchers hide the ball well. And I feel like Bubich, his motion, it's a lower arm slot, but I feel like batters have a little bit of trouble picking up the ball coming out of his hand. And those are the guys, their velocity plays up, as they say, right? Because if it takes you that 100th of a second longer to see the ball coming out of the pitcher's hand, that's an extra mile an hour or whatever, of apparent velocity. And so I do think, I don't know that the stuff measure picks that up for Kris Bubic. I think that might be why his performance here, really since the start of 2023, has been even better than his good but not great stuff for a lefty would have you think. And so at this point, again, there's no red flags in his data that says he can't maintain being in a well above average starter. I don't think that means he's going to win a Cy Young award, but I mean, what Seth Lugo did last year, Seth Lugo finished second in the Cy Young vote. Seth Lugo probably wasn't as good as his number said, but he was very close. You just need a little bit of luck on balls in play, and you could do what Seth Lugo did last year. And of course, he threw 201 innings or whatever, and Kris Bubic won't do that. But I think, could he replicate what Seth Lugo did in terms of performance, maybe just in 170 innings this year? I think he can.
Yeah. By the way, Kid Dynamite says Stuff Plus. That's what Enoceros calls it, Stuff Plus. Thank you. Cliff Lee, you like the comp there?
I feel like Cliff Lee threw a little bit harder relative to the league than Bubic. But I mean, Cliff Lee almost certainly won at least one Cy Young award. Cliff Lee was an absolute ace, a top 5 pitcher in baseball at his peak. So if we're saying that Kris Bubic could be 95% of Cliff Lee, that's a top 15 to 20 pitcher in baseball.
But that was the question, was ceiling.
Right. And I think his ceiling is a little bit below that.
But a little bit below, because you're grading him off what you think's going to happen. I mean, ceiling is if everything went right. Like, I remember asking Dick Vermeil early on, Priest Holmes. They signed Priest Holmes in his first year with the Chiefs in 2001, and he's putting up monster numbers. He's the number 1 player in fantasy football in 2001. 5, 6, 7 games in, or not. It was like, it took like 3 or 4 for them. I think they actually started Tony Richardson at running back for a little bit, but then they turned to him and he started putting up monster numbers. In the last 11 games, he had like a whole season in like 11 games. And I remember asking Dick Vermeil when he said in the podium, I said, you coached a pretty good one at Marshall Faulk. Can Priest Holmes be Marshall Faulk? And he's like, oh, there's only one Marshall Faulk. Yeah, well, for the next 3 years, Priest Holmes was every bit as good as Marshall Faulk. What was the ceiling for Priest Holmes? It was Marshall Faulk. For 3 years, he was Marshall Faulk. He set an NFL record for rushing touchdowns in a season. He caught for 500 yards. I mean, he did everything Marshall Faulk did. And frankly, with the touchdown record, he did more than Marshall Faulk had done. So, like, when I asked him that question, he was looking at a guy and saying, boy, I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him. Right. But the ceiling was Marshall Faulk. Right. He had good intentions when he said it, but he was wrong. He underestimated the ceiling, or he thought the ceiling was there and just didn't want to actually verbalize it. Are we underestimating the ceiling because Cliff Lee wasn't Cliff Lee till he was Cliff Lee. Cliff Lee
Well, that's
didn't really click till he was 29 years old.
Exactly. That's the difference, right? Like he could Kris Bubic be is Kris Bubic's ceiling to be as good as Cliff Lee was at the same age? Absolutely. Because
okay, that maybe that's the clarifier. And sorry to interrupt you, Rany.
No, good.
What's maybe the ceiling of his best season, right? Because we're getting like here, Tom says Charlie Leibrandt, right? Kottman says Tom Glavine, right? And I think when Tom says that, he doesn't mean 300 and plus wins are coming. I think he's saying, hey, on Tom Glavine's best 20 win season, that's what he's looking for. Is that maybe that's a better way to distinguish what we're talking about here?
Right. No, and that's a good comp. I mean, Charlie Lebrandt's actually a really good comp. It's been 40 years and everybody throws harder. Like, frankly, Kris Bubic, if you took Charlie Leibrandt in a time machine from 1985, his best season, and put him next to Kris Bubic, there'd be no comparison. Kris Bubic throws much better stuff, right? But so does everyone else now. But in terms of results, yeah, Charlie Leibrandt, even Tom Glavine, because Tom Glavine, like you said, his greatness didn't come from being overwhelmingly dominant, even for a short period of time. It was from being a top 10 pitcher in the sport for like 18 years or whatever it was, which is how you get to 300 wins. Cliff Lee, over a 6-year span, when he's starting age 29, averaged over 6 wins above replacement a year. Like that's, he won a Cy Young in there. He finished third 1 year, sixth 1 year, seventh 1 year, and he probably would have done better, but he was traded mid-season twice. I think Kris Bubic's best year could be an average Cliff Lee season from that stretch, if that makes sense. I don't think he's probably capable of doing that every year because I just think Cliff Lee just had a little bit better stuff. But I mean, that's a hell of a standard. Like we're talking a ceiling of a guy who can challenge for a Cy Young. Probably not win unless it's a year where there's no standout and he gets really lucky with balls in play, et cetera, et cetera. But could he get Cy Young votes this year? Yes. Yeah, I think he could.
I think the one thing nowadays, there's always seemingly going to be somebody who stays healthy for a whole season and piles up 240 strikeouts, and I don't know that is something that Kris Bubic can keep up with. Although, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Are we selling him short? He's got 16 strikeouts now and 12 and change. Like, again, that's why, we look at him, we look at the velocity, we look at it, we don't, and that was, somewhat, and that's why I mentioned the guys that got into their 30s that really, their strikeout numbers were up there. Max Scherzer doesn't blow guys away with a raw fastball like he did early on, right? But he can still have a big strikeout day. And maybe Max Scherzer right now at 40, I'm talking Max Scherzer at 35, 36, where he was still one of the most feared pitchers of baseball, was not doing it just off the velocity of his fastball. So, that's where I'm like, okay, how many games does he have to go where he's more than where he's 10 and a half, 11 Ks per nine before we go, okay, the strikeouts are going to be there too.
Yeah. When you say, are we under, I don't think we as in you and I are, because I think we had very high expectations for Kris Bubic. Do I think the sport may still kind of be, adjusting to how good he can be? Yeah, probably. And like you said, the velocity is just kind of average. In fact, it's probably slightly below average, even for a lefty. And so I think that makes it hard for people to look at him as a potential ace or like a really good number 2 starter. But this is where I come back to, I think he hides the ball well enough that it makes the velocity play up. And everything else he does, the pitch mix, the command of the pitches, the quality of the new slider that really changed his career. I mean, there's a very sharp dividing line between Kris Bubic, who was maybe a number 4 starter from 2020 to 2022. And then the Kris Bubic, who from the first time he took them out at the beginning of 2023, and yeah, we saw it for about 2.5 starts, but it was enough that we have been anticipating this return to the rotation for Kris Bubic for 2 years. All right. And everything we saw last year in the bullpen just made us more confident that it was for real. But literally 2.5 starts in 2023 was enough for you and I to buy in that we had a new Kris Bubic. And I think the sport is starting to take notice. I mean, the Orioles have a good lineup. That was a good lineup he faced today, and he had no issues with it. So it's only 2 starts. I don't want to get too excited. But at this point, the only thing I'm really concerned about with him is injury risk, right? Like, as long as he stays healthy, and the Royals, I'm sure, will manage his innings. But as they proved last year, they're not going to be babying him like some teams might, coming back from Tommy John, and he only threw 30 innings in the majors last year, maybe another 20 in the minors. He's not going to go out there and average 4 innings a start and maybe give them 110 innings. Like, he threw 6 innings in his first start. He went 6 2/3 today. Like, they're going to give him a chance to throw at least 170, maybe 180 innings this year. He will be I think, a very good pitcher, and maybe even get some Cy Young votes this year, even though the innings total might be a little bit less than some of the other contenders.
When it comes to your parking lots, it's GAN Asphalt and Concrete. When it comes to your insurance, it's David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. GAN Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let GAN educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, GAN Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find GAN online at GANasphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. GAN Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. All right, let's talk a little bit about what we got right, what we got wrong. We talked about one of them, Kris Bubic. We were very high on him. He's my bold and daring prediction that he'd be one of the top 2 starters for the Royals. That's one of the things we've gotten right. What else have we got right? What have we gotten wrong? What do you want to highlight here in this?
Look, I don't mean to brag, but at some point I'm going, every year we do this, and I have to, I'm being serious here. I ask myself, do I still have something to contribute as an analyst of the Kansas City Royals? I've been doing this now 30 years, as a side hustle of sorts.
Right.
When I started out, it was cutting edge because there was nobody else doing this. But now there's a lot of sources out there, a lot of analytics, a lot of data. It's accepted in the sport. I don't want to keep doing this if I don't feel like, if I'm wrong more than I'm right, then it might be time to move away. But I really feel good about it's only been 9 games, and all this could go to crap next week. But you and I both, the things we talked about before the season began, the things we were optimistic about, have largely been looking good. The things we were not optimistic are largely been looking good. So yes, Bubich is a big one. I mean, for me personally, Michael Garcia, maybe I was a little mamby-pamby with my bold and daring, but I was trying to make the point that I just feel like he has a lot of value and people are sleeping on him. He's been the best position player on the team this year. Best hitter, OPS over 1,000. He's played third. He played center today, made a good play. He's made appearances at second base and shortstop. Age matters. Youth matters. And he was just young enough. We'll see if he maintains it, because he did the same thing last April.
Right.
But he's hitting the ball hard. He's contributing in many ways. The confidence is back. And that's why, again, even though they're 4-5 and not 5-4, I actually feel like I would take, if you go back to the opening day and say, would you take this as an opening 9-game stretch, good and bad? I would take this, because that one game matters less to me than the people doing it. Michael Garcia, Daniel Lynch, right? I felt like we had a top 3 bullpen with Hunter Harvey and Lucas Erceg and Carlos Estevez, but we both felt like I think they were sleeping on Daniel Lynch being maybe the 4th guy in that pen and the best lefty, not on Helser, but not Sam Long. Lynch has thrown 6 shutout innings. But also the things that we were concerned about, yes, we still don't have outfielders. We still don't have a corner outfielder. Hunter Renfroe and MJ Melendez are still a huge problem. the back end of the bullpen with, Sam. We didn't specifically say Sam Long would be bad, but like we knew there was some weakness there somewhere. Chris Stratton, certainly we were concerned about, and he's not been pitching well. But really, if anything, I mean, hell, even Tyler Tolbert coming up, we talked about him in the event that Dairon Blanco couldn't go. Blanco could go, and then for some reason, maybe they shouldn't have let him start the season because we knew he had an Achilles issue, and he is on the injured list now. But Tyler Tolbert came up and has absolutely been a base running weapon. I mean, he's probably better at the base running part than Dairon Blanco was. I mean, we're seeing Terrence Gore caliber speed on the base pass. He stole 2 bases today. Came in, was a pinch runner for Vinny and stole second and stole third. So the biggest surprise of the season to me is how few surprises there have been in terms of who's been good and who's been bad. So that makes me feel a little bit more confident in our overall prediction for this team too.
I'll go to some of the surprises where maybe they've exceeded expectation. And that is one, I will give credit. I still think in the long run, I'd rather just see a seventh inning guy, an 8th inning guy, and a 9th inning guy. So far, how they've been using them is working. It's working with the big 4. We can now call them the big 4 because Lucas Erceg, Carlos Estevez, Hunter Harvey, and Daniel Lynch have a 0 ERA. The rest of the bullpen, Schreiber, Zerpa, Stratton, Long, 8.4. Okay, so there is clearly a have and a have-not when it comes to this bullpen. And you are right. I mean, we kind of hinted at that. We knew we liked the back part. The back part's been lights out. And the way you cannot argue with a 0 ERA. And I will not try. I will get out of the way and say, bravo, Matt Cochero. What you're doing is working. Now, I could sit here and be like, well, but he's run out of the good guys and lost games in extra innings. And that has happened, and we'll see. Does he need to start, getting more innings out of those guys on the days that he's got a winnable game? I don't know. We'll get a little bit deeper into that. But when you start the season, I mean, if you're on the roster, you're going to pitch. So if the bottom 4 aren't going to, or by the bottom 4, the bad 4 aren't going to pitch well, then they need to be replaced. And we'll talk about that as we get a little bit more into the minor league season. Is there somebody stepping up that's ready to get the call and go in and help them? You mentioned a corner outfielder, like, Michael Garcia has played center field. There's been some banana routes, but largely he gets to the ball. One of the banana routes that really stood out to me, I don't think he was going to get to even if he took the right route, and that was a game in last week's one of last week's games. But like Jonathan India surviving at least. I don't love it. I still don't love it. I'd still rather see him on the infield and see a true corner outfielder. But I mean, if they win the game they lost in extra innings last week and they're 5-4 and tied for first, how different are we looking at this? We're looking at it saying if you can just replace the MJ Melendez Hunter Renfroe combo, then this team is complete. Right? Like, it is amazing. It's still early enough that one game really does kind of, and I don't think anybody's looking at 4 and 5 and saying they're screwed. We're going to talk about our 80 win prediction if we want to back off that right now. But I do think just the one game and we'd probably feel a lot better. But I do have to say that Jonathan India has gone better than I thought it would. I mean, I can say this. It's not, I can't say that it's grossly affecting his hitting. I know he 1 for 4 today, but 375 on base. That's what he's brought here to do. That's really the only stat I care about for him. That which should, assuming other guys behind him continue to hit the way they're capable of hitting, will translate into a lot of runs. That's the other one. I'm going to look at another stat. Those are the ones that matter for him. So I will give props to Matt Cochero. So far, his approach to doing things that I was like, I have to say is working, is at least plausible. It's at least passable, if not doing very well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, if
and to be fair to you, you were not questioning. I was stood alone on how he wanted to use Erceg. You have always
that's the one thing we're disagreeing. And so far, I mean, I think we're both happy about this. But yes, Erceg has been exactly the weapon that I hoped he would be, and Cochero wanted him to be, which is use him in the 7th, use him in the 8th, use him when the best hitters on the other team are coming up. Because that's what's really, I mean, that's what makes sneakily he's actually been a little bit more impressive than the numbers might suggest, because they are deliberately trying to use him, when the middle of the opposing team's lineup is coming up. Now, I will say this: the best pitcher on the team so far this year on a inning per inning basis has been Hunter Harvey. Like, let us not sleep. Hunter, like in that alone, we talk about, well, they're 4-5. I wish they were 5-4. Hunter Harvey being the Hunter Harvey from the catalog that the Royals were trading for last year, and not the Hunter Harvey with the bad back that sucked for like 2 weeks and had to be shut down. I mean, I'm sure we can go through our comment section and find people who just wanted to flat out release him. Like, people were frustrated last August, and I get it. But like, he's healthy, he's pitching healthy. So actually, I feel like as just over the last few days, it does feel like they're almost settling into roles where Harvey's pitching the 7th, Ursig the 8th, because Harvey's been so good that it almost doesn't matter. Either one of them can face the middle of the other team's lineup. Yeah. But we are seeing, I think Rex Hunter called them he today, HEE. Like, I don't want to, I think that we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves if we're starting to use 3-letter acronyms, because that's a very exalted level in Royals canon. But the fact that, he's even hit upon that is suggestive of, if these 3 guys stay healthy all season long, you've got the front, the good end of the bullpen, like you said. I mean, if the Royals had the exact same bullpen performance but reversed, where it's hard to imagine, but like Stratton and Schreiber and Serpa and Long hadn't given up a run, but Lynch and Hunter Harvey and Ursig and Estevez had an 8.4 ERA. We'd be crapping, be crapping our shorts here, because like, you probably would have lost a lot more games because the high leverage guys are the ones giving up all the runs. But also, it's like, okay, so the guys you didn't expect have been good, but are they just lucky? The guys who've been bad are the guys you're relying on. No, the guys, if Sam Long, it's too early in the season to make any panic moves, but if Sam Long doesn't come along, I don't know if he's an option or you just designate him for assignment. Maybe he gets to Omaha, maybe he doesn't. Doesn't really matter. Like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over the Royals losing Sam Long if he continues to pitch like this, right? Whereas, if Lucas Ursig was being terrible, it's like, well, what do you do? This guy's supposed to be a foundational piece for the next 5 years. So the right guys are succeeding, and the wrong guys are replaceable. They were replaceable 2 weeks ago, so they're certainly replaceable now. So that makes me feel good. And then it's a matter of the outfield, and we'll talk about that. But I'd rather have one huge hole, because you can fill a hole a lot more easily than you can improve upon mediocrity.
And let me add on the Hunter Harvey thing. This is yet another feather in the cap of JJ Picollo, right? He makes that move, comes up hurt, and you're like, well, is his medical team, like, why didn't they know this? But what we talked about when they got him, and what we talked about the price they paid for him, was that they had more team control. And so when he faltered, we said, well, it's not ideal for this team that's trying to fight its way into the playoffs, and did, but they do have more team control. This trade was about more than just the 2024 season. And now that trade looks even better now. So I will mention and throw some props away of JJ Picollo, because he had a bigger picture view than just the push last year. And we're seeing it. And they stayed the course. The back calmed down. Now, I'm still terrified that the back will flare up at some point this year, because it's, pitching is a violent motion on the back. But right now, you do feel even better. I mean, he's been an excellent, to this point, short sample size. JJ Picollo has been an excellent horse trader, and this one, again, looks like he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, Picollo, JJ gets, I think, props in a couple levels. One is, after making that trade, and it was kind of clear within a week that, Hunter Harvey was not 100%. He didn't get gun shy. He doubled down and made another trade to get Lucas Ursig, right? Another guy, not just, who's not a free agent that year, but like has 5 more years of club control, gave up a lot more talent. But like, the Royals do not make the playoffs without Lucas Ursig. And if he had gotten gun shy after making one trade for a reliever, it would have been a problem. But like you said, the fact that he traded for a guy with another year of club control really meant that you get 2 bites at the apple. And Hunter Harvey pitching the way he does, as long as he stays healthy, either he, helps pitch the Royals into contention in August and September, or if the Royals have a bad season, they can move him at the deadline, if he continues to pitch like this, for close to what they gave up for him last year. All right, relievers at the deadline always have value, and club control is not as, the number of years of club control is not as important for a reliever as it is for position player. So, if you have to trade him a year later for 70% of what you gave up, it's not the end of the world. You got a year out of a good reliever. It didn't work out for other reasons if your team's not doing well. But like there are a lot of ways that this can work out. So I give credit to JJ for being transactional, as we'd like to talk about here. It's worked out.
By the way, am I the only one? Like the powder blues are not flattering to the large man, and Salvador Perez is not getting smaller.
No,
and where like he's a streak hitter, and maybe I'm not going to worry about his numbers this early in the year, but I am going to worry that as you get older, you got to work harder when it comes to staying in shape. And I will just point out he's carrying a lot of weight.
Yeah,
he looks big.
Again, small sample sizes and all that, but I'm going to read some numbers to you. Salvador Perez's sprint speed, right? Which, how quickly he gets down the line, basically, when, he's up to maximum speed. Now, this sprint speed is not everything, because some guys can accelerate really fast. And so they're, what really matters is like base to base time. But sprint speed's good.
I'm going to say he's not Ben Johnson coming out of the blocks.
No, he's not. But he's not even Salvador Perez coming out of the blocks. In 2021, Salvi's sprint speed, 26.1 feet per second. 2022, 25.3. Right? You get older, everybody loses speed. This is the problem, right? Remember, this is the metric where Bobby Witt's like consistently a tick above 30, which makes him basically the fastest guy in the sport. 25 is slow. It's 10th percentile, right? But it's, for a catcher, it's maybe slightly below average. It's not terrible. So he was 25.3. That was 3 years ago. Then he was down to 24.3 in 2023, third percentile. Last year, actually went up a tick to 24.5.
And I don't know how. I do not know how.
Well, maybe he was borrowing it from this year. This year, he's at 22.1. Now, again, it's only been a few, a few runs to first base so far. And, Salvador, if he hits a routine ground ball, he will not run it out 100%. I don't mind that, right? That's not a, he's loafing. He's just conserving energy. And this is how he stays in a lineup 160 games a year out of the catcher, which is miraculous. So this may just be that we are measuring too many of his just kind of lackadaisical jogs, but that is definitely a number I want to keep track of, because if he's lost 2 feet per second from last year, this is a problem.
The other thing, the reason why I think it's of note is I want to double check this, but he is, there is a club option on him for next year.
Mm-hmm.
And that club option is $6.5 million less than he's making this year. He's making $20 million this year. The club option is for 13.5. I mean, it's a contract year, right? And that's usually the great motivator. It didn't motivate.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, you're right.
It did not. We won't.
In terms of his body type, you're right.
Yes, we won't see. I mean, I'm seeing right now, right? Like, we're going to see if maybe he can play through it. We're going to be like, you know what? Hey, it doesn't matter. The guy he does what he does regardless of the size he is. But I really thought, okay, late in his career, wanting to grab another 2 or 3 year deal, to turn that option into guaranteed money on a multi-year, 3 years. Let's make sure he's still there. I think you'd be like, okay, this is the summer I really got to go to work. And that was not the effect it had on him. So again, it's not the end of the word, but we're voicing concerns here. This is one of the concerns that I have when I see that as, okay, where are we going from here? And I think there's reason to be a little bit nervous when it comes to what the body type is. Now, other guys got to step up. That's what that means. And speaking of stepping up, if you have been hurt in an accident, there's only one place to call: Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. All right, Rany, let's talk about the outfield. That is an issue, right? It continues to be an issue for this club. You know, how long are you willing to, if you were the Royals, you set sail with, Hunter Renfroe, you set sail with MJ Melendez. And the obvious answer is, well, when somebody down in the minor leagues forces their way past them, that would be one. That's not exactly happening right now unless they're going to change their mind about Drew Waters. I mean, the guys that are hitting are guys that they really haven't seemed to want to give the job to. Guys that they would want to give the job to are not even earlier in the minor league season than it is in the big league season. But, just something to think about. But how much longer can they continue with MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe?
Well, like you said, they set sail with them. And, if you are changing your mind after 9 games, then you've made a mistake somewhere, whether it was in getting, in pulling the plug too early or starting with them in the first place. You started with them. You certainly got to give it at least another week or so. But having said that, have we seen any sign that either of these two guys is going to bounce back from last year? No. MJ, the combination of youth and the new swing, we at least had reason. We at least thought it was plausible. There was a scenario. I'm afraid to say I really didn't see it with Hunter Renfroe much at all, unless it's strictly in a platoon role. There's a way to use him, but I just think as an everyday guy, there was not much help. But still, there's the difference between them not being better than they were last year and what they've done so far this year, which is, if I have my numbers correct, they are, and this includes Hunter Renfroe's single today, 6 for 45 with a double this year. So they are hitting, I can do math, about 140, slugging around 160. That's from a corner outfield position, and neither one of them plays good defense.
Right.
They are not contributing in any way. And so, you mentioned the name of Drew Waters. And yeah, at some point you have to wonder, do the Royals just have a vendetta against him? Because let's run through just Drew Waters as an alternative. And I'm not saying they should do that now. I don't think they should do that now. You set sail, give it another week or two, see where you are. But Drew Waters, lifetime in the major leagues, has a 92 OPS plus. MJ Melendez is at 93. He's a month younger than MJ Melendez. So despite the fact, you think, oh, he's kind of washed up. No, he's no older than MJ. He's 26 years old. He's a much better defender than either of them. The guy's played a lot of center field in the major leagues, and it's probably not very good in center, but the metrics suggest he's below average in center, above average in right. He's a switch hitter. He has speed. He's stolen 16 bases in major league career. I think he stole 2 bases today in Omaha. He's off to a very good start in Omaha, yet for the cycle yesterday or the day before. And everything about him says below average, but playable. In his major league career, 137 games in the major leagues, he was a below average player, but he was above replacement level. He's been worth 1 win above replacement in a little less than a season. MJ Melendez, for his entire career at this point, I'm not even sure he's above replacement for his entire career. No, he's 1 win below. He has not been above replacement level since his rookie year. He's basically gotten worse every year of his career. So sometimes mediocrity has value. And if MJ and Hunter Renfroe do not show signs of changing, their ways, and you're not ready yet to, invest in a trade and, trade away your minor league capital to get somebody, and Drew Waters is on the 40-man roster, I just feel like you have a perfectly cromulent option in Omaha that won't suck. And right now, these two are sucking. They may not continue to suck, but if they don't start to show signs of not sucking, I vote for going with the not sucking option.
I want to draw attention to a couple of comments. Curtis says, I say release Renfroe, send MJ down, call up Waters and Weimer. I'll let Garcia roam center field. That's fine. Weimer's not hitting either, right? Like that's,
Yep.
There's nothing down there from him right now that says he's got to come up. And then Kid Dynamite says they're afraid Melendez will become O'Hearn if they give up on him. Does he have options left? Let him get hot in Omaha. Let me point something about, the fear of O'Hearn. First of all, if that's your fear, then use him like O'Hearn is used by the Baltimore Orioles, right? Which is not as an everyday guy, which is not out, it's in spots where he can succeed. That's why O'Hearn's numbers look good. They don't use him every day. They don't use him all the time. They know what his weaknesses are. They're not trying to make him an everyday player in Baltimore. They've got many players ahead of him. They spot him in the positions where somebody needs a day off and it's a chance for him to have success. Right? They put together a roster where he does things that other guys don't. There's lots of things he doesn't do. They have other guys that do all those lots of things. There's a couple things that those guys don't do. That's what he does. They built the roster to have that and put him in position to succeed. So I agree with the point, but I want to be clear. Use him as O'Hearn. O'Hearn he's not Gunnar Henderson, right? He's not Cedric Mullins. He's not the core guys of the Orioles. He is the guy that benefits from being used the way he should be used. And that's where I don't even think that sounds great, but MJ Melendez is lost right now. And the reworking of a swing, great. But he had 18 strikeouts in spring training, right? Like there was no sign that he was ready to go. He should have been sent down, right? The problem is they didn't have anybody ready to take his place. That's the problem. The question is, has Drew Waters earned it? Off his past body of work, which you just laid out, is frankly better than the past body of work of MJ Melendez, at least at the big league level. And he's hitting better now. Like, at what point does I do get and understand that guys can hit in the minors and they'll be like, hey, the batted ball data says no, right? These are a bunch of bloop singles and they're hits off guys that are never going to pitch, and these are not the guys with the real stuff. I get it. I understand they do that, but there's also an element of like the guys in the clubhouse. Like, how long do you go bust your ass and look over there and watch MJ Melendez seemingly have a career life pass? And I think that was part of the problem with the Royals when they sucked, is that a lot of guys didn't deserve to be there, but they had nowhere else to go, so they kept putting him there. At some point, you've got to make a move just to say we're serious, that the Adalberto Mondesi career spot in the lineup being saved forever is not going to happen anymore with this ball club. I agree with you. It's not 9 games in, but it's not 50. It's not 80. Right. That's the key. Where is it? I don't know. If you ask me, it's May 1 at the very latest.
Yeah, I completely agree. And part of the problem here also is they're not playing, like, they're not taking up one lineup spot. They're
right.
Sometimes in the lineup together. Like yesterday, they were both in the lineup. Yesterday, the Royals got their asses kicked too. I mean, probably coincidental, but like the point being is, you're really they're taking up, maybe not, they're not playing every day. It's not 2 full lineup spots, but it's like a spot and a half. Like the Royals are using India in left field half the time because they got Michael Garcia. Mark Canha has played in left field. Like they're already trying to solve one positional option. They're trying to find a solution in left and maybe have MJ. And if we at least get to the point where like MJ and Hunter are just platooning in right field, and then at least it's just one roster hole. And then maybe you give them a little bit more of a chance to succeed because they're only playing. I mean, Melendez very rarely plays against lefties anyway, but frankly, Renfroe should not be playing against right-handers. And maybe that gets their bats started. But at the very least, I would like to have 8 guys in the lineup not named Renfroe and Melendez, not 7 guys. So that would be a start. But that is my concern, and that was our concern from February 15th when they opened spring training. It was clear they were not bringing in an outfielder because as you and I both were very aggressively against the idea of signing Jurickson Profar. I do want to emphasize that neither you nor I wanted anything to do with that obvious Reuter Jurickson Profar. So I guess things could be worse.
I gave you your props on the Lucas Urseg. You could at least give me the props that I was like, pump the brakes on Jurickson Profar.
Yeah, well, if you had said he was an obvious Reuter, then I'd be bowing down.
I did say do not pay for this breakout year at 31.
You did.
Because
you're absolutely right.
It's either fluke
things
or
could be worse.
Yeah.
they could have thrown away $14 million, and yeah, they're not paying it for half the season. But like, yeah, so be thankful for small mercies. But still,
do they not pay it, or do they just pay it into the Major League Baseball charity?
That's a good question.
I think
you're right. They may still have to pay it out.
Charity.
Yeah, you might be right. In which case, even worse. But the point is, he's out half a year. He can't even if he comes back and he's good, he can't play in the playoffs. Like that's a problem. That's a roster problem. And hey, if you're using PEDs, then you get what you deserve. But anyway, at least this way the Royals. It kind of reminds me of when the Royals traded Melky Cabrera. Do you remember to the Giants for Jonathan Sanchez?
Yes.
Who was horrible. For 4 months we were all railing about like, "Well, what a horrible trade." And then you see a news item come across the wire, and it's like just an epiphany. It's like,
oh.
So yeah, okay. Oh, so at least I'll cut the Royals some slack there. But look, we were right that like you can't go into a season with both Melendez and Renfroe
right
in the everyday lineup. And Drew Waters might, as a Band-Aid, sometimes a Band-Aid is very helpful. Yeah. Sometimes you've got a paper cut, you've got a gash. Yeah, put the Band-Aid on it so you can get to the doctor.
Well, I mean, I think like we keep, the evaluation on Drew Waters is that he's not an everyday guy. Well, he doesn't have to be an everyday guy. He just has to be better than MJ Melendez.
Exactly.
Right? Like it's like, that's fine. Keep looking. We're not saying problem solved. No need to look anywhere else. But that's we understand. But do you get better with him playing in right field? And you certainly get faster on the base paths. I mean, although Melendez's foot speed is very good, even though he doesn't steal bases, Waters can equate it into stealing bases. Melendez has a shockingly high, foot speed, but it just doesn't equate to stolen bases, and it doesn't equate to great defense. So if you can get better, then let's do it. Let's get on with it. Let's make it happen. Are we worried about our 88 win prediction?
Not really. I mean, when you say worry, it's been 9 games. I don't feel any differently about the Royals' 2025 outlook today than I did at the beginning of the year. I mean, in some ways I feel better because, like, again, Hunter Harvey's healthy. Maikel Garcia is hitting. Like, there are some things I like. I'm a little concerned Seth Lugo isn't missing bats. I'm a little bit worried Michael Wacha, but we knew some regression was likely with both of those guys because they were like incredible last year. Our expectation was that the team would improve in other areas to make up for that regression. And what we're seeing from Bubich and, some of the other guys, I feel pretty comfortable with that 88 and 74. I see no reason to change my mind at this point.
Yeah, I'm willing to stand on it. 4 and 5 isn't anything to have me running. -3 run differential.
Actually, after today, they were dead even. They've scored.
That's right.
Basically, they played 2 extra inning games, and they just lost both of them. Right. One of them they threw into Sam Long. The other one, Carlos Estevez gave up the ghost runner. That's the only run that is scored against those guys, and that's an unearned run. And then they had to go to Sam Long, and he lost both games in extra innings. But that's something that'll get fixed. Either he'll get better or he'll get replaced. So yeah. I'm not worried about it.
And Tyler makes a good point. He reminds us it's what we've said: 500 against good teams, crush the bad teams. They haven't had a chance to play the bad teams yet.
Right. Exactly.
Although the Brewers looked like a bad team when they got them. They're 0-3. There is something to be said for keep losing teams losing, and the Brewers were a losing team then. They weren't able to do it. So that's a little bit disappointing, but we felt all of the Brewers are a much better team than that. And so I don't think there's any shame there. But they will get their shot against the White Sox and the Rockies. I think the Rockies are what ends this run of teams that are at least expected to be good coming into it. So I'm okay with it. I'll stand with the 88 because I do like the Bubich, part of the equation that's there. And I think they will make a move to try to improve the outfield one way or the other. And, so I'm not going to run from it. And that brings us to our Jack Caglione moment, the minor league minute. Do we Jack's Jiffy, Cag's corner, Cag's clip, jacked up? What do you like? Is it just going to be? I don't think it is, though. Let me answer the question and say it's not, because just down there alone, Gavin Cross is actually hitting in front of is now hitting and doing a decent job. And he's hitting in front of Jensen and Caglione, which means he's probably going to do pretty well, but Carter Jensen's hitting. It's not just Caglio. We can talk about it. That's the guy everybody's got an eye on. He had 3 more hits. He's fantastic. He's the most promising one of the bunch, unless you still want to say Carter Jensen's the top prospect, which I think you did.
I mean, well, I did before we saw Caglione's, EVs in spring training.
Yeah.
I think I would reverse that now, and but that's for the best possible reason, not because Carter's done anything wrong. It's
right, he's doing great.
Might be a bona fide, phenom. I mean, look, the Northwest Arkansas in general, it's been 3 games since they opened their season, but they swept them. They scored 12 runs in their opener, 9 yesterday, and 14 today. So everybody in AA right now is hitting. It's only been 3 games. Carter Jensen has 7 singles this year, which is hilarious. In 41 AA games last year, he had 17 singles. He has 7 in 3 games. Like, sometimes you just finally get the bleeders to roll through. But let's talk about Caglione, because we already had him on the agenda this morning before the 3-hit game today. Mm-hmm. And that was for 1 swing yesterday, which if you're listening to this, you've probably seen the clip. If not, go find it. Yes, we've seen him hit bombs before, but is seeing a guy hit a massive jack ever not fun? And he hit a ball 116 miles an hour, which he's done before, but that's still ridiculous. He hit it 464 feet. A home run that literally left the stadium in right field in, I think they're in Tulsa. Do you know how many times in the StatCast era a Royals hitter has hit a ball that far at Kauffman Stadium? Keep in mind, this is since 2015. So
since 2015? So, geez, a Royals done it?
Yeah.
I think who it would have been. I mean, maybe once. I'm sure I'm missing somebody once.
So as far as I can tell, I can only I found 3. The longest ball, hilariously, was hit by Brandon Moss when he was a Royal, if you recall, the man who almost single-handedly beat them in the wild card game for Oakland, came over, hit a 474-footer. And Kendrys Morales, I think, hit one about 470, and then Bobby Witt last year at 468. There might be 1 or 2 in the 465, 466 range, but I mean, 3 balls in 10 years. But here's my favorite part. It was an 0-2 pitch.
It was an 0-2 pitch, and let me give you another one. It's so rainy and crappy that the lights are on. Everybody's wearing coats and rain jackets. I mean, it was a miserable hitting day, right? This wasn't 96 degrees, the ball's jumping down there in Houston or it looks like the worst day to hit. Mm-hmm. Cold, wet, and he drops a bomb.
And again, on OJ, it's just like the man does not get cheated. He was not choking up. Like that part of it is just he's 6'5", 250, and he hits 116 mile an hour bombs through the rain, with 2 strikes on him. So yeah, we may not see him this year. I don't know, but it's fun to talk about. It's just fun to marvel. I'm glad we live in an era where we have video of minor league games, etc. We can track him quite nicely here. Today, 3 hits, none of them were homers. There was a double down the line and 2 hard hit singles, but all 3 balls were like lasers. I don't have the EVs on those, but pretty sure all 3 were at least 100 miles an hour. He hit the ball hard. He also drew a walk today. All right, that's his 2nd walk in 3 games. He struck out, I want to say he struck out now 4 times in 3 games, but he's had 18 plate appearances in 3 games because they're just batting around in Northwest Arkansas. His strikeout rate is manageable. It's not, it's not elite, but God, with that kind of power, even if he strikes out 140, 150 times, that's perfectly fine. So something just to keep an eye on, though. I will say, and I know you're going to laugh at me, but the first thing I look at when I see the box score, where is he playing? He's playing first base. That's fine. If this continues and he continues to rake like this, and he moves to Omaha at some point, let's just say I wouldn't be surprised if his position is no longer first base. We'll see. It's a long season.
I hope not. Make a trade. Okay? Make a trade. You have depth in other places. Make a trade. Right? It's as simple as that. Like, you can bring
I
him
just
up.
want to see him in Kansas City this year. That's all. All right. If
I
he
would
can
love
play
it.
right field, it's a bonus. But like, I think we all want to see him, and we all want him to earn that visit. So
Yeah, I would love it. I would love it. Listen, talking about our fine sponsors here at the Kaufman Corner. If you want to support us, support our fine sponsors. Folks like David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Fantastic when it comes to taking care of you, whether it's a car, home, you name it, boats, RVs, they do it all. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Don't let your parking lot leave a bad taste in a client or a customer's mouth. Get a perfectly smooth, flat, beautifully striped lot right now. Go to GannAsphalt.com and by our friends at Northland Injury Law. If you've been injured in accidents, contact Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyer serving KC for more than 40 years. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. For the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner Podcast.